What's up, guys? Beau Martonik here, East Meets West Hunt podcast. I am setting up my new Hoyt RX-9 today, and I'm gonna walk you through everything that I do to get this bow set up and ready to go. So first and foremost, I have my own home bow shop here that I built throughout the years. I've done I think a podcast and definitely a blog post over on eastmeetswesthunt.com. You can go check out some of the stuff I have here, but I slowly been building it over time. And from years of working in a bow shop, I've felt fairly competent to be able to put together my own bows, and I've been doing it here ever since. It's super nice to be able to make small adjustments, shifts, things, tuning, getting everything ready, all here right at home, not having to go anywhere. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna set up this bow. So first things first, you can find your specs here up on the top of your, underneath your upper limb. And on this side here is where you can see there's a little QR code there, so you can scan and check out your draw length information, everything on the bow. Make sure you got the right one and that you have everything here. All right, so here's the box of accessories that I'm gonna have here. And I got my bull elk from last year down here, but I live in a small house, don't have any place to put them right now, but it's a good problem to have. You got the Hoyt Carbon Superlite Quiver. This is my whitetail quiver. It quickly detaches, hangs on the tree. I've got the stabilizers. I've got an 8-inch. This is the new Stealth Pro, so the ones that just came out here in 2025. Then I've got a 6-inch one there as well. I've got the dialed Pruf bow sight. Excited to check this out, try it out. QD Ultra S Integrate MX2. These are super nice. They bolt right on and pretty much ready to go without much for adjustments out of the box. The SL sidebar mount to run my sidebar. Super easy to set up, lightweight. And then my favorite accessory, the Go-stix 2.0s. Really nice for making your bow a stand. You're shooting in the yard, you're doing stalks, ground hunting. This is literally probably my favorite bow accessory that I've had to date. So I've got my bow leveled, so I got the string, got the left and right. See that's leveled there. Put the rubber band on because it doesn't stay on that string really that well. And then up here, I like to set my arrows slightly knock high. It calls for setting it level. I like to set a little knock high. It tends to be good for me. This also allows me to run a little bit larger diameter arrow and still should shoot pretty good out of there. I'm not sure what arrows I'm going to use yet. I'm setting it up with these Ultraviews, but also have Easton axis and some Ultra arrows as well. So I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like yet, but that gives me a little bit of wiggle room there to be able to adjust. Now I tied in the knocking points here. So I tied one at the top, one at the bottom. I checked it with some different knocks. I want a little bit of wiggle room there. That eliminates the need for knock pinch, as well as when my D-loop wears out from using it all year, then I can tie a new one on and not lose my spot. I'm sick of having problems with my D-loops getting wore out prematurely, and I got this recommendation from one of the best that shoots every single day, Levi Morgan. He had recommended using this BCY 23, and it's been awesome. Put thousands and thousands of arrows through my bow last year, and D-loop still looks good. It's expensive, but works really well. put the cable from the QAD down through the down cable here, just below where the serving ends, and I like to put it through the string. I've done it a bunch of ways. Last year I clamped it on, I've tied it around there, I've done it a bunch of ways, but what I'll do is I'll set this and put it in, put a stopper on it so it can't pull through, and then what I'm doing is loosening this front end. So the front end of the QAD here, where it goes into the actual rest, I'm putting that, I'm gonna tighten it just enough to where you can, once you pull on it, you can get it. What happens is once you draw it back to full draw, it should set itself as far as the right timing. I'm gonna do it on a draw board, but this makes it so that if you're in the field and something happens, that you are able to fix it relatively easily with while you're in the field. So if you cut a bunch off or anything and you have it timed super easy, it's tough to be able to make a fix in the field with that. All right, so typically I'm not gonna put a peep sight in here until I get a couple hundred shots through it. So I got my rest timed, just shot a few shots through it, everything feels good. But what I'm gonna do now is get my sight on, some of my accessories, show you installing that stuff, and then I'll put a bunch of shots through it, and I'll come back and put that peep sight in to finish the tuning. But one thing that I did in the bow press, while I was checking the timing of the rest, I also checked the timing of the cams, looking at when those cable stops hit to make sure they're at the exact same time. So the top and the bottom hit that string or that cable at the exact same time. This one did that perfectly, so I'm good to go. Didn't need to make any adjustments there. I'll do that again after I get everything set up, peep in, and been shooting for a little while. But the reason why I like to wait to put that peep sight in is to let the string stretch into its place. I don't know if that's really a necessary step anymore. That was something I was taught to do 10 years ago, working at an archery shop. So the strings are pretty dang good. My Hoyt last year, I never had to retune it at all throughout the season or the summertime, so which is really impressive. So maybe there's not an issue with that, but that's what I like to do and what makes me feel confident, so I'm gonna do that. All right, so I put about 150 shots through the bow now over the last 4 or 5 days. Now I'm getting ready to put the peep sight in. I'm gonna go and put my peep at the same height that I had on my RX-8, because the same specs, same dimensions, it should be the right spot for my eye. Now I will double check it, but if you don't have the same exact specs and bow that you're transferring to with your new bow and you're setting it up, there's a couple different ways you can do it. I know people will take the bow at full draw. If you have a draw board, this makes it super easy. Measure from the middle of the arrow or the top of the arrow to the center of the peep sight, and just make sure that's the same across the board. Do that, and that'll get you a good angle depending on, it doesn't really matter what your axle to axle length is, that should work. I haven't done that. Typically how I was taught to do it, might be not the most efficient way, but is to draw the bow back with an arrow in it, get to full draw, have your eyes closed, get anchored, put your nose, or however you're anchoring there, I put my nose right on the string, open up your eyes, and wherever you're looking at, someone will come down with a silver Sharpie, and as soon as they're blocking your vision, you say, okay, they make a strike mark, and that's a good starting point. Put your peep in there, and after it's in, you can draw back and confirm, make sure that's okay. So I've got it in my press here, and I am going to put this peep in. Now the peep that I am using is a Hamskea Raptor peep. I've been using these, man, it's been 5-6 years that I've been using these. Really like these peeps. And my Raptor peep is the 7/32. I've used that, and also the 3/16. Like both of those ones a lot. 1/4 inch is better for hunting scenarios in low light, but those two really fit my sight housing perfect, so it's easy for me to line everything up and be able to shoot. So that's why I stick with those ones. And honestly, this Raptor Peep's super cool. The reason why I started using it, I believe my buddy Clint Casper was the first one that turned me on to them. And these Peeps, see, they're like a cylinder there. They've got baffling inside of them, which helps for getting rid of sunlight glare when you're going through. No matter the light situation, you're getting a clear view through that. Super nice. On these Peeps here, I don't know if you can see this, but they've got the different indicator marks. So the string groove for a 35-degree angle or a 40-degree angle, and there's a little chart up here depending on your bow's axle to axle and draw length, which groove you should use. So for me here, I've got a 30-inch axle to axle, 28-inch draw. I'm in a 40-degree, so that'll be the ones that have the indicator marks next to it. Okay, right there. All right, that's where I'm gonna need to be putting that into the bow. All right, now that I've got my Peep in the right position, I did, because it was twisted a little bit, I did have to put just a half turn into the top of the actual bowstring there. Shouldn't throw it off too much. And so basically what I was doing is I was taking a half of a twist out of that string. I'll check everything afterwards, make sure it's still in tune, but usually that much doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. So, all right, now I'm gonna tie this in. And how I'm gonna do it is a way, I was taught a completely different way. And then as I started doing my own bows here, I changed it up a little bit. So Levi Morgan has a video. At the time of recording this, it's like 9 years old, but it's a really good video. It's quick, it's like 5 minutes long, super to the point. Tying this Peep in, and so the way he does it, and I'll show it here, but it basically makes it so it can't move. The problem with that is if it's not in the right position, you're not gonna be able to move it without cutting that string and doing it. The way I was taught was just top and bottom. That gives the ability to adjust and slide it. Or if you have where your string stretches and that Peep turns, to be able to make some adjustment a little bit easier. For me, I've found, especially on these Hoyt strings, my bow never came out of tune all last year after thousands of shots through it. Didn't have any issue with that. I'd rather that Peep be tight in place, not gonna move, so that's why I'm tying it in this way. All right, next step is I'm gonna install my sight, which I have the new dialed Pruf bow sight this year. I've run the Arxos the last couple years, and if you've heard me talk about it, I really like the triple V sight here. So the vertical, having 3 pins on there. I like how easy everything flowed, but there were some things I did not like about the Arxos. The rail here, the windage rail, it goes back and forth. It was cylindrical, so when it would go in there, it had the potential to move. And also when you would be adjusting the elevation on the rail, it also messed with your second axis adjustment. Now, Dialed has fixed all of those things, at least from first impressions here. And so I'm excited to be able to try that out. They've got easy mark third axis indicator, second axis indicator, and first axis. Super simple to be able to read, be able to see, and be able to adjust it. So I've got the pick mount on this one, so meant here to screw right on the front of the Hoyt. So we're gonna get that set up. So to start with this, I'm gonna leave this sight. So I got it mounted here. I just mount it in the center of the pick rail here. Now this housing is gonna be a little bit too high. So see the elevation rail, you can scroll that up and down. I want that to be completely bottomed out. So for when I have my 20 set, I have all this elevation available to be able to shoot long range, attack events, or whatever. So I'm gonna lock that in place, pushing down the lever, and I'm gonna take off this front bar here and slide it down. All right, so I got the sight mounted up here, and now I'm going to get the bow leveled and check out the second axis adjustment. This is where it's super nice that on this sight that it makes it to where I can set that second axis adjustment, and then I can move it up and down that rail even if I don't have it sighted in correctly for where it needs to be for 20, and it's not going to mess up my axis adjustment. So I'm going to get that set. I may mess with the third axis a little bit, but I'm going to check that again later anyways. But I'm going to get that figured out here, then I'll mount the rest of the accessories and get out there and start shooting. So my first axis was off just a little bit. So basically this level wasn't perfectly aligned. This one was not with the string. So I come down here, all I gotta do is loosen that bottom bolt there, and then either screw in, screw out on each of them until you get that to level out. So there's the two easy adjustments. All they're doing is just pushing on that bolt. You see how that's like an oval shape there, that bottom one? Is be able to move that bracket to make sure it's aligned with everything with your bow. Make sure that's set first. It should come set from the factory. Mine was pretty dang close, but I'm just gonna adjust it slightly. So move that up on the elevation rail, and as you can see, that bubble is directly in the center. And even my second axis looks pretty dang good there as well, also in the center. So I will take that. I think that's good to run with there. Everything's tightened down. Let's get the stabilizers put on. All right, I've done a video on these before, just a short clip on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, but the Go-stix 2.0 are my favorite accessories to put on my bow. One of my favorite accessories because it allows you when you're on stalks or you're just shooting in the yard, just have your bow standing there, which is super nice and convenient. Something that, again, seems so simple, but it doesn't clip onto your limb or another part of your bow that for me just feels like it's screwing up my shot. Just goes right into the front port here. I'm gonna take off this little shortstop stabilizer and just put I'm gonna put the little 6-inch stealth stabilizer, these Gen 2s here. Screw this in. I screw this in up above because I like it when I put it around my neck for a handle as I'm going through there. And yeah, that's honestly really the only reason. I guess there is one other reason. When I'm hunting from a tree, when I'm hunting from a saddle or a tree and I need to move to the weak side shot and go around a tree, this sticking out further down here just creates where it can hit on your bridge or something else. So that's why I put that there. Then if I'm for bow hunting for whitetails, this is how I'm leaving it set up. Now when I'm gonna be going out west and shooting tack events, a little more long range, want to hold just a little bit steadier, I do like to put a little bit of weight off the back. I don't mess around with it so much where I'm like making sure everything's perfectly balanced. I just kind of go by feel with it. Plus when you're shooting with a quiver on, it helps offset that a little bit. So these little SL mounts from Hoyt for their stabilizers, super lightweight and nice to be able to use. So I'm gonna get that mounted here. All right, that's it for the stabilizers. All right, so I have two quiver options. I have my quiver from last year that I use for Western hunting, which is the 2-piece Superlite. This is meant to really stay on the bow, hold 6 arrows. And then I've got the 4-piece, the 4-arrow Ultralight. That's just a 1-piece system that makes it easy for taking on and off. Got the little hanger here, putting it on when you're in the tree stand. So when I'm not shooting with the bow on, but I'm using the 6-arrow quiver for Western hunting and stuff shooting off the ground, and then this one for in the tree stand. That's just my personal preference. You can use each for either. But how these work and how these are installed is super simple. So all of Hoyt's accessories are meant to bolt directly into the bow. So this is an example where you got a few little holes up here in the riser on the RX-9. The Alpha series is a little bit different, but pretty much similar. All right, so just unscrew this. Basically put this in there like so. Get that nice and tight. And then the bottom piece is this is again only on the 2-piece quiver. This goes in right above the mount where the bottom stabilizer would be at. Same situation though. Clips in a hexagon shape, so it's easy to find your spot and get everything realigned. What's nice is when you're swapping between those different quivers, if you decided to do what I do and have 2 separate quivers for the Endeavor, for switching from this 2-piece to the single piece is easy, as you just take out this bottom bracket here and then just grab the 4-arrow quiver that's a single piece, and it goes on the same rail on the top there, so the same mounting bracket for the top can be used. So that's nice and simple. All right, now with this little piece here, that's used for the quick detach on the single piece quiver. We're not going to use that for this. We're going to put this one on here, and we're gonna we're gonna put that baby in there nice. All right. All right, so if you saw, I had pretty good knock right tear. When I say good, not good, but had a pretty heavy knock right tear. Now a lot of people do is go and adjust the rest, which you can do that, but that's not the right thing to do in the regards of, if you look at my bow here and you look down the center, that arrow is perfectly lined up with the center. So the center shot's good. I checked it, it's 2 spec. With the Hoyts, and honestly, you bolt them on, you don't have to do anything. Everything's set to 0 where it's supposed to be. So I don't do that. I go and I start swapping these spacers. See these spacers here? There's a bigger one. Let me get this focus right. Got a bigger one on the right, smaller one left in the situation. So to get that to move back over, I need to move that cam this direction. You can do top and bottom or just one or the other. Top one does more of a micro adjustment, where the bottom does more of a major adjustment. So I'm gonna throw this in the bow press, swap that over, and what I've learned is these Hoyts tend to like a little bit of a weaker spine than my other bows have in the past. And so I should be in probably a 340 spine arrow. All the charts say 300, that's what I've been using. Have some point weight, 125 grain tips, and it's always been fine, but for some reason these Hoyts like it a little bit weaker. You can counter that by just moving those, shimming those cams over. So that's what I'm gonna do, and see if that works out. All right, so got a lot closer. So with the Ultraview arrows here, still got a little bit of a knock right. Then with the iron wills, we've got a perfect tear there. So it's gonna depend on what arrow I guess I'm gonna be using. Nonetheless, I'm going to, yeah, I'm not sure. I might not make any other adjustments right now until I figure out what arrow I'm gonna do, but that's how you can continue to fine tune. Now I could do a little bit with the rest right now to be able to get that Ultraview over, or the other way is that what I'd probably do is swap some stuff out with the bottom cams, just keep playing with those axle positioning with the cam to get it just absolutely perfect. But obviously, like I said, with the iron wheel arrows, they're shooting just fine. Just need some adjustment if I decide to use the Ultraviews, but for getting the bow going right now, I think we're pretty much good to go. So So here it is, the complete 2025 Hoyt RX-9 build. And just quick recap, my specs here. It's a Hoyt RX-9 in the Tombstone, so the gray color. I've got it in a 28-inch draw. I have my settings on extra hard for the cam, 70 pounds. The dialed Pruf sight on here with the 3V vertical, I'll do the 19 thousandths pins. And then I've got the 8-inch and the 6-inch stabilizers with the SL sidebar adapter, and the Go-stix 2.0 on the front, the QAD Ultra Rest integrate for the Hoyts, and I've got the 6-arrow one-piece quiver I have the 6-arrow 2-piece quiver as well as the 4-arrow 1-piece quiver for when I'm whitetail hunting. But that's pretty much it. That's my whole bow setup here. If you have any questions or suggestions for me to make something a little bit more efficient, leave them in the comments. I know everyone's got their own way of doing things. This is the way I do it. This is how I've been doing it for years, with setting things up, but always trying to improve and get better. So if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments, and make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel here. And for more information, head over to the East Meets West Hunt podcast and check everything out. But thank you guys for watching.